In the Lazarus music video, David Bowie writhes in a hospital bed, his eyes bandaged, his body trembling as he retreats into a wardrobe, as if death itself is calling him there. When viewers first watched this video in January 2016, they marveled at Bowie's artistic vision, but no one asked, why so dark? Why so personal? Why is a man dancing with death in his own video? 2 days later, when the answer came, the world froze. David Bowie had been battling liver cancer for 18 months and hadn't told anyone. Not the media, not his fans, not most of the world. Blackstar wasn't just a new album, it was a requiem he composed for his own funeral. Every song a farewell, every symbol a message, every video a final breath. But here's the real question. Why did Bowie do this? Why hide his death and then turn it into his greatest work of art? And what secret messages were hidden beneath those dark symbols, those cryptic lyrics, those haunting images? Prepare to be shaken by this story, because we're diving into one of music history's greatest mysteries. If you love these kinds of deep dive stories, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications, because we'll keep illuminating the dark corners of rock history. Summer 2014. New York. Soho. David Bowie is 67 years old and hasn't performed live in a decade. The world sees him as retired, perhaps completely withdrawn from music. But inside his loft apartment on Lafayette Street, something's happening that no one knows about. Bowie goes to see his doctor. What starts as a routine checkup ends with a diagnosis that will change his life forever. Liver cancer. Advanced stage. Maybe 18 months, maybe less. Most people collapse when they receive news like this. Gather their loved ones, maybe go on a world tour, or maybe just wait quietly. David Bowie decides to do something completely different. When he returns to IMAN'S, there's a strange expression on his face. Not fear, but determination. I'm going to make one more album, he says. IMAN'S understands but doesn't understand at the same time. Because Bowie doesn't mean just any album. This will be his final performance. But the world will only understand when it's too late. Bowie makes his first phone call. The person he calls is Tony Visconti, his producer, friend, and musical companion for decades. When Visconti answers, he immediately notices something different in Bowie's voice. "Tony, I need you for a project," Bowie says. They talk like it's a normal music project, but Visconti doesn't know this phone call is actually the first step in a farewell plan. Bowie doesn't tell him about the cancer diagnosis. Not right away, at least. He just says, "We need to hurry." And Visconti interprets this as creative urgency. The studio is set as Magic Shop, in the heart of New York, a small but intense space. Recording begins in November 2014, and Bowie makes detailed plans for each session. But the musicians coming to the studio sense something's different. Bowie is more focused than usual, more serious, as if aware that every note might be his last. Saxophonist Donnie McCaslin remembers. When David walked into the studio, he'd normally crack jokes, be relaxed. But this time, he was quiet, thoughtful, like his mind was somewhere else. As recording progresses, Tony Visconti starts noticing something's not right. Bowie needs breaks to rest. Where he used to work for hours without interruption, now they're doing short sessions. One day in the studio, Bowie suddenly steps outside. When Visconti finds him in the hallway, he's leaning against the wall, eyes closed, taking deep breaths. "You okay, David?" Visconti asks. Bowie smiles, but this smile carries much more than fatigue. It's the smile of a man who knows his time is running out. "I'm fine, Tony. Just a bit tired. Let's continue," he says. And they continue. Every day, every week, Bowie's body weakens, but his determination strengthens. By December 2014, the basic recordings are complete, but Bowie doesn't want to stop. "One more," he keeps saying. "We need to record one more song." In January 2015, Visconti finally learns the truth. Bowie calls him into Magic Shop's small room, closes the door, and asks them to sit. "Tony, I need to tell you something," Bowie says, and Visconti's heart stops because he recognizes that tone, the tone of serious news. "I have cancer. Liver. I've known for a while." Visconti freezes. Words won't come. How long is all he can ask. Bowie shrugs, as if discussing the weather. "Long enough. That's why we need to finish this album. And Tony, no one will know. The media won't know. The fans won't know. We'll release this album and then, we'll see what happens." When Visconti leaves the studio that day, he probably cries, but he doesn't show it to Bowie. Because what Bowie wants isn't pity, it's professionalism. He's creating his final work as an artist, and he doesn't want it tainted with emotional drama. When recording of the song Blackstar begins, the atmosphere in the studio completely changes. As Bowie introduces the piece to the musicians, he's normally explanatory and detailed, but this time he just says play, feel, find the darkness. Donnie McCaslin and his group are faced with an unusual piece. nearly 10 minutes long, structurally complex, at the intersection of jazz and art rock. But the strangest part is Bowie's lyrics. In the villa of Orman stands a solitary candle, the song begins. Orman? Villa? No one knows what it means, but they don't dare ask because the expression on Bowie's face doesn't accept questions. Only Tony Visconti will understand later. Orman means serpent in Norwegian. The villa is the body, and the solitary candle is fading life. Bowie is talking about his own death, but doing it in a language no one can understand. Midway through the song there's a shift. Bowie's vocal becomes a high-pitched scream, almost painful. "I'm a Blackstar," he cries out, and everyone in the studio feels that moment. This isn't just a vocal performance, it's a confession, a scream, a final breath. When the recording ends, there's silence in the studio. The musicians look at each other, no one says anything. Bowie emerges from the vocal booth, drenched in sweat, exhausted but with a satisfied expression on his face. "That's it," he just says. When Visconti listens to that night's recordings, his hair stands on end because now he knows every note, every word from Bowie is a conscious farewell. And the term Blackstar is no coincidence. In astronomical terminology, a black star is the final stage of a star before death, the moment just before becoming a black hole. Bowie is describing himself. For the video shoot, director Johan Renck is chosen. Renck is Swedish, has worked on shows like Breaking Bad, an expert in dark visuals. When Bowie calls him, he gives very specific instructions. "I want darkness. I want death, but a beautiful death." Renck doesn't fully understand what he means, but trusts Bowie's vision. The filming location is inside an old mansion in the English countryside. November 2015, the weather is cold, the sky gray, and Bowie prepares for the cameras. His costume is entirely black, the buttons shaped like stars and glowing black star symbols. But most striking is the bandage over his eyes. Bowie doesn't want to see, or perhaps doesn't want to be seen. The film crew is stunned because Bowie's physical appearance has changed dramatically in the last 5 months. Thin, pale, but still that old intensity in his eyes. In one scene, Bowie is trembling. This isn't in the script, this is real. His body has weakened to the point where he can't control it. But instead of calling cut, the director keeps filming because he understands this is what Bowie wants. Real pain, real fragility, real humanity. The 3 buttoned men in the video, strange costumes, star symbols, odd movements, are described as villagers, but Renck later explains, "David said these were messengers of death. They represent death. They've come to take him." And in the final scene of the video, Bowie enters the wardrobe, pulled into darkness. This isn't metaphorical, this is real. Bowie is showing viewers his death, but no one sees it. Everyone interprets it as surrealist art, when it's actually documentary. When video filming is complete, Bowie thanks the crew, says goodbye to everyone individually. Some crew members will later remember. "It was like he knew he wouldn't see us again. But we just thought, goodbye David, see you on the next project." December 2015. As the song Lazarus is being recorded, Boom's health is deteriorating. He's now struggling to stand, forced to sit in a chair in the vocal booth. But when he starts singing the song, something happens. Like a warrior gathering his last strength, his voice grows stronger, clearer. "Look up here, I'm in heaven," the song begins, and Visconti never forgets that moment. Because Bowie's delivery isn't future tense, it's present tense, as if he's already there, in heaven. "I've got scars that can't be seen," Bowie continues, and these words are so loaded that everyone in the studio listens in silence. When the recording ends, Bowie turns off the microphone, bows his head and stays that way for a long time. Visconti approaches him. "David, that was amazing." Bowie lifts his head, his eyes wet. "This might be the last one, Tony," he says quietly. Visconti understands what he means but can't respond. For the Lazarus music video shoot, the same director Johan Renck is chosen again. This time the filming location is a film studio in New York. Early January 2016, Bowie's birthday is approaching and the album's release date is set, January 8th. On the day of filming, the crew is shocked because Bowie's appearance is alarming. The makeup team struggles to make him look more vibrant, but Bowie rejects this. "No, it needs to be real," he says. "The set is ready, a hospital bed in the center, white sheets, a cluttered room." Bowie lies down on the bed, and when the camera starts rolling, something incredible happens. Bowie isn't acting, he's living the moment. His eyes bandaged, his body convulsing, his hands trembling in the air. This isn't performance, this is a real death performance. Someone from the crew will later recount, "We all wanted to cry but kept working. Because David wanted this. He was showing us his death." The most striking moment in the video is the wardrobe scene. Bowie gets up from the bed, staggers toward an old wooden wardrobe, and enters it. He closes the door and disappears. As director Renck films that scene, He asks Bowie, "What's inside?" Bowie looks at him and smiles. "The end of everything, Tony. Or the beginning. Who can tell?" That scene is completed in one take because Bowie knows he won't have the strength to do it a second time. When he enters the wardrobe, the camera waits from outside. The crew waits. Everyone holds their breath. A few seconds later, Bowie opens the door and emerges. But the expression on his face has changed. He's no longer David Bowie. He's now Lazarus, the man who returned from death but never really came back. When filming ends, Bowie approaches the director. "Thank you, Johann. That was perfect. The perfect ending for my final performance." Johann doesn't understand in that moment, but he will in a few days. The lyrics of Lazarus are actually so clear that when you look back, you're shocked you didn't notice. This way or no way, you know I'll be free. This isn't a choice, it's a condition. Just like that bluebird. Oh, I'll be free. The bird metaphor, the soul's flight, freedom. But the most striking part, ain't that just like me? Boom is defining himself here, the man who turns even death into a performance, a work of art, a final show. And indeed, when the world learned on January 10th and listened to this song again, everyone felt the same thing. Bowie was always saying it, we weren't listening. The words are there, the videos are there, the message is there, but no one understood because no one wanted to understand. Because imagining Bowie could die was like thinking the sun wouldn't set. For the 18 months from summer 2014 to January 2016, David Bowie almost completely hid from the world. No paparazzi photos, no interviews, no social media posts. Just a few blurry photos taken while walking on New York streets. And even in those, Bowie is wearing a hat and sunglasses, his face hidden. The world attributed this to Bowie's love of privacy. He hadn't performed in a decade anyway. Maybe he'd retired. Maybe he just wanted to spend time with his family. But the truth was much darker. Bowie was dancing with death every day. Chemotherapy sessions, radiation treatments, doctor visits, all done in secret. His wife Iman and children Duncan and Alexandria knew, of course, but no information leaked out. How did they manage this? In 2016, the media knows everything. Paparazzi are everywhere. If a celebrity sneezes, it's trending on Twitter. But Bowie had created such a system that no one could learn anything. The loft apartment on Lafayette Street had been turned into a fortress. Security was increased, only the most trusted people were allowed in. Doctors came and went at midnight. Bowie's manager Bill Zeisblot and legal team had agreements signed to keep all treatment records confidential. Hospital staff signed non-disclosure agreements. If there was a leak, the media would go crazy. Bowie knew this, and he had explained to Iman why he wanted this control. "My fans shouldn't see me dying. They should remember me on stage, strong, creating, not weak, in pain." Iman understood this, but watching her husband slip away a little more each day was unbearable. At night, sounds from Bowie's room, coughing, moaning, pain. But when morning came, Bowie would get up, smile, say "Good morning, love," as if nothing was wrong. By late 2015, Bowie's condition began to become critical. When doctors said there was nothing more they could do, Bowie just nodded. "How long?" he asked. "Maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months," they said. Bowie looked at the calendar. January was approaching. "Can I make it to January 8th?" he asked. The doctors were surprised. It was an odd question. "Why January 8th?" they said. "It's my birthday," Bowie said, "and my album comes out that day. I need to last until then." Doctors gave him medications, took measures to reduce the pain, but Bowie's real strength was his willpower. Every day a goal, to see the album, to give it to the world, and then he could go. Duncan Jones, Bowie's son, will never forget his father's final days. Duncan was a film director, working on a new project at the time, but he dropped everything and came to New York. In those last days, he had long conversations with his father about music, about art, about life. One day, Duncan listened to Blackstar and looked at his father. "Dad, these songs," he began, but couldn't continue. Bowie took his son's hand. "I know," he just said, "but isn't it beautiful? My final album will be my best." Duncan cried that day beside his father, but Bowie didn't cry, because Bowie had already made his decision, made his peace. As an artist, he had completed his final work. As a father, he had taught his son everything. As a husband, he had given Iman a lifetime of love. Now it was time. Friday. On the streets of New York, there's normalcy. People going to work, cafes opening, the world turning. But on Lafayette Street, in Bowie's apartment, the atmosphere is different. Bowie turns 69 today, and at the same time, the Blackstar album is being released to the world. At midnight, the album goes live on digital platforms, and within minutes, the world goes crazy. Twitter explodes. Music critics are shocked. Fans are ecstatic. Headlines like "Bowie does it again," "Masterpiece," "Perfect return after 10 years of silence" are being thrown around. Rolling Stone magazine publishes an emergency article. David Bowie's boldest album. Pitchfork gives it a perfect score. The Guardian says, living legend creates a true masterpiece. No one knows this is also a farewell letter. There's a small celebration in Bowie's apartment. Aman has made a cake. Duncan and Alexandria are there. A few close friends have been invited. Bowie sits in a chair, thin and tired but with a sparkle in his eyes. Tony Visconti is on the phone. David, the world's gone crazy, everyone's talking about the album. Bowie smiles. Good, he just says. Aman looks at him and sees the question in his eyes but doesn't ask out loud. How much longer? Bowie hugs her, whispers thank you. It's unclear what he's thanking her for. The love, the support, life itself, or is he saying goodbye? When evening comes, the guests leave, only family remains. Bowie turns on music, but not Blackstar, tracks from his old albums. Space Oddity, Heroes, Life on Mars, Memories, The Journey, The Song of Life. Saturday morning, January 9th. Bowie can't wake up. Aman panics and calls the doctor. Doctors come but there's not much they can do. Bowie's body is completely exhausted. In the afternoon, Bowie opens his eyes for a few hours, looks around. Duncan is beside him. Alexandria is there. Aman holds his hand. Do you hear the music? Bowie asks. No one hears anything, but they all say yes, Dad, we hear it. Bowie smiles. Beautiful, he says, so beautiful. His eyes close again. When night falls, Bowie's breathing becomes labored. Aman doesn't leave his side, holds his hand for hours, strokes his hair, whispers, I love you, David. I'll always love you. Sunday morning, January 10th. In the early hours, David Robert Jones, known as David Bowie, takes his final breath, quietly, at home, with his family beside him. His death is beautiful, peaceful, artful, just like his life. A few hours later, the official announcement is made. On Sunday, January 10th, David Bowie passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family, after an 18-month battle with cancer. The world freezes, social media crashes, news broadcasts are interrupted. In London, people start gathering in front of his childhood home in Brixton. In New York, Lafayette Street fills with flowers. In Berlin, people sing Heroes. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower lights flicker. The entire world experiences the same shock. Bowie is gone. On the afternoon of January 10th, millions of people do the same thing. They listen to Blackstar again. But this time, everything is different. Look up here, I'm in heaven. No longer metaphorical. This is real. I've got scars that can't be seen. Cancer scars. Pain no one saw. In the villa of Orman. His body. His dying home. Every word, every note takes on new meaning. The Lazarus video is rewatched. That hospital bed is real. That trembling is real. That entrance into the wardrobe is real. Boom was never acting. He was making a documentary. A documentary of his own death. Tony Visconti releases a statement. David's final album wasn't just a farewell gift. It was also a demonstration of courage. For 18 months he didn't tell anyone, because he didn't want distractions until he completed his art. Every day he came to the studio, he was in pain, but never complained. One more song, he'd always say. Now I understand. He knew every song might be his last. Visconti's words shake the world again, because people realize every move Bowie made, every decision, was calculated. This wasn't just an album, this was a controlled farewell operation. Johan Renck, the video director, tells his own story. When we were filming the Blackstar video, David told me show death beautifully. At the time I didn't fully understand what he meant. How can death be beautiful? But now I understand. David turned death into a work of art. He transformed the terrible thing, the inevitable thing, into beauty. In the Lazarus filming, when I saw him trembling, I wanted to call cut, but he signaled me to continue, because he wanted to capture the real moment. Not fake, not acting, the real moment of death. Renck's words give the videos a new perspective. These are no longer music videos. These are visual documents of a man's dying process. Music historians begin to decode the Blackstar album, and every analysis reveals a new layer. The lyrics in the song Dollar Days, I'm dying to push their backs against the grain. Literally dying, giving his last breath. If I'll never see the English evergreens I'm running to, knowing he'll never see England, Brixton, home again, it's nothing to me, it's nothing to see. Accepted death, made peace. The song's melody is sad, but also peaceful, as if Bowie is telling listeners everything's okay. And maybe it is. Maybe for Bowie everything really was okay, because he hadn't lost control. He remained an artist until the end. The Blackstar album cover appears simple, a fragmented white area in the shape of a star on a black background. But designer Jonathan Barnbrook explains, David was very specific. The Blackstar symbol must be a fragmented star, he said, because I'm fragmenting, dissolving, but also transforming. If you look at the star field on the back of the cover, there are other shapes inside, hidden symbols representing David's entire career. Ziggy's lightning bolt, Aladdin's Sane's star, Thin White Duke's flatness. They're all there, all transformed, all inside Blackstar. Even the cover design tells a story. An artist bringing together all his identities and transforming them one final time. The costume choices in the Blackstar video aren't coincidental either. The star buttons on Bowie's button suit, these are actually different versions of Blackstar symbols. The costume designer explains, David determined the placement of each button himself. Each star should represent an era, he said. The brightest one on his chest is the Ziggy Stardust era. The faded one on his left shoulder is the Berlin era. The one on the right is the present moment, death. The mysterious figures with 3 buttons in the video were also designed per Bowie's instructions. They're my past selves, ghosts coming to take me, Bowie said. Every detail, every image carries meaning, and Bowie planned it all. There are hidden messages in the other songs on the album too. The song Girl Loves Me contains lyrics in Nadsat language from Clockwork Orange. Where the fuck did Monday go? Bowie asks. This isn't just a chaotic question. It's an expression of how time becomes uncertain as death approaches. The jazz chaos and orchestral drama in Sue, or in A Season of Crime, is the sonic state of Bowie's inner world. Disorderly, harsh, but also beautiful. I Can't Give Everything Away. The album's final song and most striking title. Bowie is literally saying, I can't give everything away, because some things must be buried with their secrets. But at the same time, this song references the hero's melody, as if Bowie is touching one last time on one of his life's most important moments. Music professors and analysts examine the album's structure. 7 songs, 41 minutes total. Why 7? Some say it's a mystical number. 7 heavens, 7 main chakras, 7 life stages. Bowie's career can also be divided into 7 major periods. Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, Diamond Dogs, Thin White Duke, Berlin Trilogy, Let's Dance Pop Star, and finally Blackstar, the Death Artist. Each period an identity, each identity a death and rebirth. And Blackstar is the synthesis of all these periods, the final transformation. 41 minutes is no coincidence either. In numerology, 4 + 1, 5. 5 is the number of transformation and change. Bowie is even embedding messages mathematically. In the days following January 10th, a period of mourning begins worldwide. But this is different from typical celebrity death mourning. This is experienced as a personal loss. Because Boone wasn't just a musician, he was a friend, a guide, an identity discovery journey. In front of the house where he was born in Brixton, the area turns into a sea of flowers. Messages are hung. Thank you for teaching me to be different. Without you, I couldn't have been me. You reached the stars, Major Tom. In Berlin, thousands gather in front of Hansa Studios, singing Heroes, crying, embracing. In New York, his building on Lafayette Street becomes a pilgrimage site. People come and wait for hours just to stand in front of the building to pay their respects to him. Celebrities also share their reactions, and they're all experiencing the same shock. Madonna, we lost the coolest guy in the world. Paul McCartney, the loss of David is a huge loss for the music world, but also for me personally. He was a true original. Mick Jagger, Bowie's friend and sometimes rival for decades, releases a long message. I saw David for the last time last year. He'd lost weight, but his spirit was strong. He told me about his new album. His eyes lit up. Mick, this is my last chance, and I want to make it the best, he said. He succeeded. He always succeeded. In Jagger's words, there's a hidden confession, so he knew about Bowie's condition too, but kept the secret. Kanye West, Lady Gaga, Arcade Fire, new generation artists talk about Bowie's influence. Lady Gaga, without him, I wouldn't exist. He taught me that being different isn't just acceptable, it's celebratable. Trent Reznor, Bowie didn't just make music, he created identities. He showed all of us that being an artist means constantly dying and being reborn. Fans share memories on social media with the hashtag #BowieForever. Moments when they first heard his music, concert experiences, stories of how Bowie changed their lives. One fan writes, in 1983, I was 14 years old and Let's Dance changed my world. For the first time I saw that a man could be different, could be strong and vulnerable. Bowie taught me how to live. The music industry also pays tribute to Bowie. At the Grammy Awards, Lady Gaga performs a major Bowie tribute, a medley from Space Oddity to Heroes, from Fashion to Let's Dance. The performance is emotional and powerful. Gaga finishes in tears. At the Brit Awards, Annie Lennox sings Under Pressure, the stage filled with Bowie's iconic images. Every awards ceremony, every music program touches on Bowie in some way. Because his impact is so great that forgetting, ignoring it is impossible. IMAN'S says very little publicly, but the few messages she shares on social media are devastating. One day she shares a photo of Bowie at home, black and white, Bowie smiling, looking healthy, from the old days. She writes beneath, "Sometimes you believe they're immortal, I believed. Another day, I still talk to you, you're still here." And the most devastating, 26 years wasn't enough, I needed forever. These messages are read by millions and everyone feels the same pain, the loss of love, a lifetime left incomplete. Duncan Jones, Bowie's son, rarely talks about his father's final days, but opens up in one interview. "In his final week, my dad told me something. Duncan, don't fear death. It's nothing to fear, it's just a transformation, like when I killed Ziggy and became the Thin White Duke. Now I'm transforming into something else." He was so calm that while I was crying, he was smiling. And you know, in those final videos, in those moments when he was trembling, when he was dancing with death, he wasn't acting, he was living those real moments and showing them to us. It took me years to understand, but now I do. My father turned even death into performance art. When Bowie's will is revealed, there are other surprises too. He left most of his fortune to Eamon and the children, but also made several important donations to music schools, cancer research, organizations advocating for LGBTQ+ rights. One clause is particularly notable: "My funeral must be private, no media, only family, and please no headstone. I want my ashes scattered in Bali, in the place Eamon loves." Bowie maintained control until the very end: how to live, how to die, how to be remembered, even what would happen to his body. A nurse who was with Bowie in his final days shares a detail years later. On his last night, with hours remaining, David asked for music. Eamon played him the Blackstar album. David listened with his eyes closed, his lips moved slightly, as if trying to sing along to his own song. When Lazarus came on, he opened his eyes for a moment, looked at Eamon, and smiled. Then his eyes closed again, and never opened that night. But that smile, it was a smile of peace, a smile of completion. David had done what he set out to do. He'd seen his album, given it to the world. Now he could go. The Blackstar album is recognized as one of music history's most important albums, not just for its musical quality, but for its creation story. No artist had ever documented their death so consciously, so artistically. Mozart's Requiem was left incomplete. Johnny Cash's Hurt cover was a pre-death moment of acceptance. But Bowie's Blackstar was completely different. This was planned from start to finish, every detail considered, a masterpiece of control. Music critics call it the pinnacle of death art. One critic writes, "Bowie showed us how to face death, not with fear, not by running, but by embracing it and transforming it into art." Academics begin studying the Bowie phenomenon, from psychology, sociology, art history perspectives. A psychology professor writes an article, "Bowie's Blackstar project offers a new perspective on death anxiety. Most people flee from death, deny it, hide it. Bowie put it center stage, made it visible, made it art. This is an example of radical acceptance." Sociologists discuss Bowie's social impact. Bowie wasn't just a musician. He redefined gender norms, sexual identity stereotypes, the artist-fan relationship. In the 1970s, saying you were bisexual was career suicide, but he did it, and survived. He even grew bigger. New generation artists start referencing Bowie. The Weeknd dedicates the Starboy album to Bowie. Lorde calls him my greatest inspiration. Billie Eilish says, "Without Bowie, I couldn't exist." Even in the rap world, Bowie's influence is seen. Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, Kanye West, they all say they were inspired by Bowie in concepts of identity transformation, alter ego creation, artistic evolution. Music now seems divided into pre-Bowie and post-Bowie. The Blackstar album rises to #1 worldwide after his death: England, America, Germany, France, Japan. Bowie achieved such global success for the first time in his career, and the ironic thing is, he's not alive to see it. But maybe he knew this. Maybe it was part of the plan. Because Bowie knew everything: how the album would be received, how his death would create shock, how people would go back and rediscover the songs and videos. He wasn't just a musician, he was also a marketing genius, a strategy master, a control master. And his final project became the pinnacle of his career. Years later, Tony Visconti says in an interview, "David called me a few days before he died. He was very weak, struggling to breathe, but wanted to talk. Tony," he said, "tell people something. Tell them I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of death because I turned it into art, and art is immortal." Then he laughed, light ironic Bowie laugh, and added, "Also tell them I had ideas for the next album." I cried on the phone. Even on his deathbed he was making jokes, planning music. That was Bowie, an artist until the end. The message Bowie gave with Blackstar is actually simple but profound. Death is inevitable, but how you die can be controlled. Most people see death as an ending, but Bowie saw it as a transformation, a work of art, a final performance. And maybe we can all learn something from him. What we'll leave behind at the end of life, how we'll be remembered, how we'll write the finale of our own story. Bowie wrote his own finale, and that finale was a masterpiece. Today, years later, Blackstar continues to be listened to. New generations are discovering it, old fans are listening again, and with each listen, new meanings, new layers emerge. Because that's what great art is. It defies time, changes, grows, lives. Bowie died, but Blackstar lives. The videos, the songs, the messages, they're all there waiting for us to tell us something. And perhaps Bowie's greatest achievement is this. He showed us that death isn't something to fear. Death is just a passage, a transformation, a final show. Major Tom went to space, Ziggy Stardust was killed, the Thin White Duke disappeared, and finally David Bowie left too. But they all transformed into something, immortal art, eternal music, everlasting inspiration. And that's perhaps the greatest thing an artist could want. Bowie's final song ends with "I Can't Give Everything Away." The harmonica melody slowly fades, as if mixing with the wind, moving away. When the final note ends, silence remains. But this isn't empty silence, it's full silence, full of memories, emotions, art. Bowie left, but left everything behind. His music, his vision, his courage, and most importantly, the idea that we can control our own ending. He showed us that even death can be turned into art, if we're brave enough and creative enough. David Robert Jones, David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, Thin White Duke, Blackstar, all one, all different, all immortal. The world lost a star, but the sky gained a new star, and that star shines even in darkness. Forever.